Hello everyone, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my crochet channel. I'm very excited about today's pattern. We've been working on it for quite some time, and actually it's a very simple pattern, and it has these holes that move along in each of our striping sections. It's really easy. It's a great pattern if you've never done any filet type crochet to get an understanding of how it works. It's a very simple pattern in that it just repeats every time we change our yarn. The name of this pattern is called the Picnic Blanket or the Beach Picnic Blanket. We couldn't decide on the name. I wanted to call it a beach blanket, and I also wanted to call it a picnic blanket. So we decided to combine the two and make it a beach picnic blanket. Because when you go to the beach, don't you have a picnic? Now the written pattern measures approximately 28 inches wide and 32 inches long. You can easily adjust that. You can get all the information for the multiples and the pattern itself with pictures. And as always, you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make your beach picnic blanket, you're of course going to need some yarn. Now I designed this using these two yarns. They are medium weight number 4 yarns. The variegated striped sections is made using Red Heart with Love stripes, and the name of this is called Leisure Stripe. And you're going to need about 9 ounces of your variegated and 9 ounces of your solid, which is about 360 yards of each color. All right, which basically is 2 skeins of each if you work out all the math. And if you make it bigger, of course, you're going to need more yarn. But basically, you need 9 ounces of a variegated and 9 ounces of a solid in order to make the blanket, the size that the pattern is written. All right, so remember, if you're going to make it bigger, you're going to need more yarn. We're stitching today with our J hook, which is a 6.0 millimeter crochet hook. And the reason we're going with the J hook is we want it to be just a little bit more open and loose than some of the other blankets that I've done in the past. I wanted it to be able to just sort of flop down, sit on it. If it's in the sand, you can pick it up and shake it out, or even on the grass for that matter. And so we went with the J hook, and I really love how everything turned out with this crochet hook. And the other things you need is a needle for weaving in ends and a pair of scissors. So we're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 67 chains. Now remember, we need to stitch the initial chain just a little bit loose because we don't want the end of our blanket to be puckered up on one end. So we're going to loosely chain 67 chains. I have chained my 67 chains just a little bit loose, and now we're going to do a row of double crochet. So we're going to yarn over. We're going to place our first double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in each chain and stitch a double crochet. And our double crochet is yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the last 2 loops. All right, so we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the chains across. One double crochet in each of the chains across, and remember we began in the 4th chain from the hook. I have stitched 1 double crochet in each of my chains across, And remember, we began in the 4th chain from the hook, so you're going to have 65 double crochets. We're going to chain 3. The chain 3 counts as our first double crochet of our next row. And so that's 1 double crochet, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 9 stitches. All right, let's see how many I've got. Here's our first one, and then we're going to stitch 9 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have a total of 10. Our chain 3 counted as 1, and we stitched 9 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next double crochet and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And so what we're going to do is we chained 1, we skipped 1, and then we stitched 1 double crochet in the next 10. And then we'll repeat this across. Chain 1, skip 1 double crochet, and 1 double crochet in the next 10. And we'll repeat this all the way across our row. So I repeated, chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10 across. Then when I came to the last one, chain 1, skip 1, and then 1 double crochet in those last 10 stitches. Chain 3 and turn. And now what we're going to do for row 3 is just repeat what we did on row 2. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I stitched 9 double crochets, and then our chain 3 counted as 1, so I have 10. I'm going to chain 1, skip that chain 1, and then stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Again, chain 1, skip the next stitch, which is our chain 1, and repeat across. And so our holes, or our chain 1 spaces, are lined up together. So we're going to repeat 1 double crochet in the next 10, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat all the way across. I have completed row 3, and you should have 10 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and your chain 1 spaces will be lined up. You're going to have a total of 60 double crochets and 5 chain 1 spaces. Now that stitch count is going to stay the same throughout the entire project. What's going to change is where we place our chain 1 spaces. All right, but your blanket will have 65 stitches. You'll have 60 double crochets and 5 chain 1 spaces on every row. And like I said, what changes is where we place our chain 1 spaces. All right, let's do row 4. So I've chained 3, I'm going to turn my work, and instead of stitching 9 double crochets, we're going to stitch 11. All right, so we have 1 and we're going to stitch 11, so we'll have a total of 12. All right, so I've stitched 9 plus my chain 3 gives me 10, and we want 12. So we're going to stitch our next stitch in the chain 1 space, and then 1 more double crochet, and chain 1. And see, now that's going to make our chain 1 space over here. So we count our chain 3 plus 11 is 12 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In the chain 1 space is 9 and 10. And then we'll chain 1, skip 1, and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10. All right, but let's look at it real quick. We began with 12, and now we're going back to chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10. And we'll repeat this all the way across until we reach the end of our blanket. Chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10. And again, you'll see that our chain 1 spaces are offset from the 2 previous rows. I continued to repeat chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. And when we come to the end, chain 1, skip 1, but we only have 8 stitches on the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We began with 12 double crochets and we ended with 8 double crochets. All right, so we chain 3 and turn, and now we're just going to place 1 double crochet in the next 7 stitches because we want this row, our chain 1 spaces, to line up with our previous row. So we have our chain 3, then we stitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that gives us 8. So we're all lined up. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. There's 7, 8, 9. So we started with 8, we chained 1, skipped the chain 1 space so that our chain 1 spaces line up, and now we're going to repeat across 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat all the way across. So to repeat, we started with 8 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and then we repeated stitching 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches, chain 1, skip 1, and this brings us to the end. Here's my last chain 1, skip 1, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in those last 12 double crochet stitches. There we go. righty, 2 more stitches. And chain 3. So we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, so we have 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, skip 1, and 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. The center of our work is always the 10 double crochets with the chain 1 spaces. It's the beginning and end of each row where we change what we're doing in order to offset our chain 1 spaces. So there's our first 3 double crochets. Chain 1, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 double crochets. Chain 1, skip the next, and repeat 1 double crochet in the next 10 double crochets. And so we'll continue to repeat that across our row as we've done on the previous row. And you can see that our chain 1 space is offset. So chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches, and repeat across. I have repeated across, chain 1, skip 1, 10 double crochets, and repeat. Here's my last chain 1. Okay, so we're going to skip the next stitch and stitch 1 double crochet in the last 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And chain 3. All right, so we have 6 double crochets at the end. We have our chain 1, and then we have 10 double crochets all the way across, and then at the beginning we started with 3. 3 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, then we did our 10, chain 1, skip 1, repeat all the way across. And you can see that our chain 1 space is offset from our others. All right, let's do row 7. Here's our chain 3. We're going to turn our work. Our chain 3 again counts as our first double crochet, so we'll double crochet in these next 5 double crochet stitches, which will give us 6 double crochet stitches counting our chain 3. Now we'll chain 1, we'll skip our chain 1 space and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. Because for this row we want our chain 1 spaces to all be lined up. All right, almost there. All right, so now what we're going to do is repeat across our chain 1 space, our chain 1, skip that chain 1 space, 10 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat all the way across, making sure that our chain 1 spaces line up. I repeated my chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10, making sure that my chain 1 spaces are lined up, and you can see how the pattern is working. So here's my 10 stitches, my chain 1, and I'm going to double crochet in these last 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. and chain 3. All right, now it's time to do row 8. We've chained 3. We're going to turn. We're going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Our chain 3 counted as 1. We stitched 4, so we have 5 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, skip 1, and again 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. Five, 6, 7, 8. We go in that chain 1 space for 9 and 10. And chain 1. All right, so this is the way that row 8 is working. We have 5 double crochets at the beginning, chain 1, skip 1, and then 10 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and repeat across. And you can see again we're offsetting our chain 1 space. So I worked my way across, chain 1, skip 1, 1 double crochet in the next 10, chain 1, skip 1 all the way across. And so here's my last 10 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet in those last 4 double crochets. And chain 3. All right, so we started with 5, chain 1, skip 1, 10, chain 1, skip 1, repeat. Then we ended with chain 1, skip 1, and 4 double crochets. I've turned my work. I have my chain 3, and for row 9 we want our chain 1 spaces to line up. All right, so we have our chain 3. I'm going to double crochet in these next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and 1 double crochet in the next 10 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and repeat all the way across. And now you can see that we have alternated or offset, not alternated, but offset our chain 1 spaces. And that's what gives this fun look. All right, so we'll repeat that across. 1 double crochet in the next 10, chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and repeat all the way across. And so again, I have repeated chain 1, skip 1, 10 double crochets, and repeat till we get to the end of this row. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, and 1 double crochet in the last 4 stitches. I'm not going to chain 3 there because that's where I'm going to change colors. All right, but I wanted you to see how this looks. We can't see all of it, but you can see how we have our staggering or offset chain 1 spaces. And this is the repeat that you'll do. So you'll bring in your variegated color. We'll clip our yarn, bring in our variegated color, and then chain 3. Remember, when changing colors, you should always do your chain 3 after your color change. And then what we'll do is we'll repeat rows 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, rows 2 through 9 with our variegated. And then we'll switch back to the solid and repeat rows 2 through 9 again. And you'll continue to repeat that as many times as you want for the length of your blanket. I repeated mine 5 times, and that will give me 3 stripes of solid and 3 stripes of the variegated that I'm using for my blanket. And so you'll change colors like we did. You'll repeat those 6 rows, rows 2 through 9, with your variegated. Then you'll repeat with your solid until it's the length that you want. So here's my actual blanket. I started with the solid, then I went to the variegated, solid, variegated, solid, and variegated. Just repeating rows 2 through 9 each time. And it makes a really fun filet style blanket. The last thing I did is just did a solid row of double crochet all the way around my blanket. Nothing fancy, just simple double crochets around. I used my variegated yarn. You can use your solid if you want to. I just wanted the variegated for my blanket. And I evenly double crocheted around the whole edge of my blanket, placing 3 double crochets in each of the 4 corners. I did not put a fancy trim on it. I didn't want a fancy trim. I wanted the filet stitches of the offset chain 1s to be the star of this blanket. And I do really love the way this blanket turned out. It's simple. Once you learn those 9 rows of repeat, you can do it as wide as you want, as long as you want. And I do suggest maybe you practice it a little bit before you do some adjusting, just so you get an idea of how the pattern works. But I think you're really going to enjoy stitching this up, and it stitches up relatively quickly. And so that is how you make the beach picnic blanket.